Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear a woman telephone a company that organizes extreme sports activities. She wants information about a possible birthday present for her dad. First, you will get some time to look at questions 1 to 10.
Hello, Grayson's Adventure Days. How can I help you?
Oh, good morning. I want to book an activity day as a birthday present for my father. So could you give me an idea of the sorts of things you organise, please?
What a great present. Do you want the activity to take place in a particular location?
No, anywhere in the country would be okay.
Right. Well, how about bungee jumping? That's our most popular activity.
Uh-huh.
After a safety briefing, you're securely fastened to the correct bungee rope for your weight. Then the crane takes you up to a height of 50 meters in a cage, and you jump from it.
You make it sound so easy.
In fact, some people change their minds at the last moment. But for the really brave, you can also book our special, which is one normal bungee jump and then a backwards one. It's quite an experience.
I can imagine. Is it available every day?
We do bungee jumping all year round on over 120 dates and in various locations. But you should try to book about 4 weeks in advance if possible, as it's very popular.
Okay. And are there any age restrictions? It'll be my father's 50th birthday, so I hope he isn't too old.
No, he certainly isn't too old, but will require a certificate from a doctor to confirm that he's in good health.
Oh, he's very fit, so that won't be a problem. How much is it?
It costs £57 per person for the standard jump and £97 for the special.
Right. Now, I've heard of something called zorbing. Do you do that too?
Yes, we do. That's another very popular activity.
What exactly is it?
Well, you're securely attached in the centre of a zorb, either alone or with another person. A zorb is over 3 meters high and it consists of one ball inside another, both made of clear plastic so you can see out through them.
And what happens next?
You roll down a hill at speeds of up to 50 kilometers an hour. You can also choose the hydrozorb experience, where 25 liters of water is thrown inside with you, and you aren't attached, so you slide around in the water while you're rolling.
Wow, I'm sure my father would enjoy that. What about the dates?
The zorb rides take place between April and October, but just at weekends.
Are there any restrictions? I mean, for height or weight?
Your father needs to be at least 160 centimeters tall and weigh no more than 110 kilos.
Oh, that's fine. How much does it cost?
Zorbing is £50 per person.
And is hydrozorbing the same price?
No, that's £65.
Right. I'd better give my father details of both the bungee jumping and zorbing and let him choose. And then I'll get back to you.
Fine. We tend to get fully booked, especially at this time of year, so you ought to book well in advance.
OK, I'll get back to you in the next few days. Thanks very much for your help.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to Part 2.
You are going to hear part of a lecture. It's about a brief history of submarines, that is a vessel for carrying people underwater. First you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14.
There are two main types of device in which people can travel underwater. Diving bells, which are lowered and raised from the surface and can't be propelled forwards, and submarines, which do have a means of propulsion. It's possible that Alexander the Great descended into the sea in a diving bell 2,300 years ago, although this hasn't been proved. And some sort of submarine may also have existed in China not long afterwards. The first workable submarine of recent times was designed and built in 1620 by a Dutch doctor living in London, Cornelius van Drebbel. This was a fully enclosed boat, propelled by the crew, who used oars, as in a normal rowing boat. The crew breathed air through tubes from the surface of the water. The submarine travelled along the River Thames for several hours at a depth of over 4 metres. Later in the 17th century, the British astronomer Edmund Halley patented a diving bell linked by pipes to barrels of air. Manned descents to depths of over 18 metres, lasting up to 90 minutes, proved that diving bells were practicable devices. A number of experiments took place in the next 2 or 3 centuries, including one submarine in which the crew turned a hand crank to propel the vessel mechanically. Jumping now to the 1930s, 2 United States explorers, William Beebe and Otis Barton, developed a bathysphere, which means deep sphere, in which they dived to 922 metres. The bathysphere was just large enough for 2 people and was raised and lowered from a ship by a steel cable. Electricity reached it along a power line from the mothership, and the 2 men breathed oxygen from tanks fitted to the interior. They had a telephone link with the ship and were broadcast on the radio all over the USA.
Before you hear the next part of the lecture, you have some time to look at a submarine called Alvin, and name its parts with question 15 to 20.
Nowadays, we have submersibles that can withstand the immense water pressure far below the surface. One of these deep submergence vehicles, as they're called, is Alvin, which has been in use since 1964. A typical dive lasts 8 hours and descends to 4,500 metres below sea level. Alvin is used for various scientific purposes, including, in 1985 to 86, surveying the wreck of the Titanic, the ocean liner that sank in the Atlantic in 1912. The first thing you notice about Alvin is its bright red sail, displaying the name of the vessel. The sail is on top of the vehicle, at the front, and helps to maintain stability. Alvin is about 7 metres long and just over 3.5 metres high, but only a small portion of that space is available for people. This is in the pressure sphere, which is located under the sail at the front of the vessel. With a diameter of about 2 metres, there's room for 3 people, but it's a tight squeeze. Usually, there's a pilot and 2 scientists. From here, they can look out in various directions through 4 viewing ports. Alvin carries a large number of instruments, including video and still cameras mounted on the exterior at the front, along with lights for illuminating the ocean, as of course sunlight doesn't penetrate this far down. Usually there's a stowage basket mounted on a frame at the front, used to hold tools and scientific equipment. Immediately under the sail is the hatch, which has a diameter of only 50 centimetres. This is the way into the vessel. On top of the sail, there's a current meter to measure the movement of the ocean. Propulsion is provided by 6 electric thrusters, which make Alvin very manoeuvrable. 3 of them are for forward and reverse movement, 2 for vertical motion, and a final thruster, right at the back of the vessel, turns the submersible round. Now we'll turn to other uses.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You will hear a college professor and 2 students talking about a course on shooting video projects. First, listen to the first part of the conversation and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Professor Edwards. What's happening?
Well, department head just told me I've got to teach this course on making video documentaries. I know you two are really into videos. That documentary you made last term on homeless people was fantastic, and I've never thought this course before. I'm an old-fashioned film man, so I thought I'd get some suggestions from you on how to design this course.
Well, I don't know if we can be much help, but we'll try.
How exactly do you think we can help you?
I suppose the first thing is, how much do most of the students know about video cameras? I don't want to waste time telling them stuff they already know.
Actually, some of them have video cameras, but they only use them for home movies, that type of thing.
Yeah, I don't think many of them know much about their cameras. Just point and shoot.
So maybe I should start with the basics of the video camera.
I think so. Otherwise, they will just put the thing on automatic and lose out on a lot of really good things you can do if you control the camera more yourself.
I agree. But do you expect everyone to have their own video camera?
Too expensive for a lot of them. But they can rent them. Doesn't cost too much. £5 to £15 a day, I think. Depends on the model. The thing I'm most interested in is getting them to plan their projects properly and be creative in their use of what they've got.
Doesn't the film department have some cameras students can use?
I checked that out. They've only got 3. Probably not enough.
Do you think they need broadcast quality cameras? You know, 3 CCDs, expensive stuff.
As the conversation continues, answer questions 26 to 30.
No need. Single CCD. A bit of zoom. Wide angle for indoor stuff and scenery. Basic functions will do.
You mean camera angles, shooting from interesting positions, creative lighting, that sort of thing.
Kind of.
But that's much the same as you teach in your film courses.
Guess you're right. But I want to think of things you can do with a video camera that you can't do with a film camera.
Aha, secret shooting. Much easier to film people without their knowing with a tiny video camera than it is with a big film camera. Make a little hole in your pocket and off you go.
And if you're not happy with something, you just erase it and do it again, if you can.
Good point. But there's a question of privacy here. Is it fair to film people without their knowing?
Unless you're a cop or something. I suppose it's not. But it's often the only way to get what you want.
I don't worry about these things. I just want to make good movies. Can't always do that if people know you're filming them.
Well, I've never been taken to court for filming people without their knowing. But I agree, sometimes you have to.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You are going to hear a lecture about various issues in land management and ownership systems by Professor Fred Roberts. You now have some time to read questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all looking so full of energy. Today I'm going to give an overview of some general principles and issues relating to land management and ownership. Very important. If we look at history, it seems that much of it concerns conflict over religion, economic power and land. Often all three factors are involved together. The first question one asks when talking about land is, who owns it? What you can do with land you own depends on one's political views. A far-right conservative may say ownership is the socially supported power to do what you want with the land you own, with no control by government, as long as what you do with it doesn't hurt others. You can imagine how different factions interpret hurt others. By contrast, the political left, socialists and, more to the left, communists say land ownership, private land ownership that is the root cause of much injustice in the world, and that the social protection of private land ownership can result in tyranny and oppression. They therefore argue for state, public and cooperative forms of land ownership. I would mention here that most of us take for granted the idea that everything must be owned by a person, people or an organisation. But some societies, notably some native North American tribes, seem to have no concept of personal ownership. It was normal for them simply to take anything they needed and for others to take it from them if they needed it. When European settlers came, the Indians behaved as usual, which led the Europeans to seeing them as thieves. But the European settlers grabbed the Native Americans' land, their most important possession. So who were the real thieves? However, in this day and age, it would be futile to think of getting rid of the concept of ownership. But let me return to land ownership. It's a complex issue. For example, should the owner have exclusive control over the rights of way, like traditional footpaths, or the migration routes of wild animals, or the ecologically important wetlands? Should the owner be allowed to destroy the whole lot by building expensive houses everywhere? Or what if the owner discovers hidden treasure that once belonged to the royal family? All such things raise questions of the rights of the owner as opposed to the rights of others, including animals, perhaps. Clearly, divergent views on such questions are a constant source of argument. What did the classical economists say about land ownership? Their positions were often rather ambiguous. Many of them seemed to consider it a necessary evil, and argued that it could not be defended if there was not some obligation to keep and improve the land. This is the concept of stewardship. that the land must be kept in good condition for future generations. But what if the owners were good stewards of their vast estates, but millions were going hungry? The Marxist answer was, and still is, land reform as a means of social justice. And in the 20th century, I mentioned ecological issues just now. Other reasons for legally restricting the rights of landowners have emerged. You can't cut the trees down because it would cause soil erosion that can spoil rivers hundreds of miles away. Pollution, the need to protect biodiversity, things that reduce the level of what we called nature's services to the general public, all have led to more restrictions on landowners' rights, at least in some countries, especially Europe. At the same time, property taxes have steadily increased to pay for essential services offered by the state or local government, such as firefighting. As these threats to the health of our planet get more serious, some people have argued that the ownership of natural capital, forests, wetlands, etc., will more and more be controlled by communal and not by private bodies. For example, the use by multinational companies of native plant varieties for modified crops and new drugs, plants that they seldom paid for in the past, are now increasingly recognized as belonging to the cultures or ecosystems from which they originated. But it seems to me that having the land and its flora and fauna owned by governments is no guarantee that they'll be used wisely, rather than for short-term profit. The evidence is that local ownership protected by law is usually the best answer. Okay, it will soon be time for a break, but before we have our coffee, I will give the answers to the two questions I asked you last time. What are the differences between leasehold and freehold? Essentially, the former allows possession for a limited time, while the latter is a special right granting the full use of real estate for an indeterminate time. In this country, most houses are sold with the land and the house itself freehold, whereas many flats are sold with a lease which was issued by the freeholder to the original leaseholder. The flat is then effectively owned by the leaseholder for an agreed number of years.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.